Magandang hapon. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome once again to Kamayan para sa Kalikasan Forum, held every third Friday of the month since March 1990. This public forum is brought to you by Green Convergence for Safe Food, Healthy Environment, and Sustainable Economy, or GC for short, and Kamayan Restaurant. This month's episode on mainstreaming electric vehicles is our 409th and is again organized in partnership with Partnership for Clean Air, a valued member organization of Green Convergence. We are now live streaming at the Green Convergence Facebook page. A video recording will be uploaded later to the GC website and the GC YouTube channel. I am your moderator, Marie Marciano, a founding member and former vice president of GC, and an old, literally, advocate and defender of justice, human rights, and the environment. Enough said. Now it's time to welcome our co moderator, who has been a long time, not old, Earth Defender since his high school days. Currently, he is the host of Boses ng Kalikasan, and at the same time, he is president of the Green Party of the Philippines and vice president of Bayanihan para sa Kalikasan Movement, Inc., as well as content creator and influencer. Friends, let's put our hands together for David D'Angelo. Hi, David.
Yes, thank you, Marie, and good afternoon to everyone sa mga kalikasang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Very interesting discussion we have today, Marie.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I'm sure, we will learn a lot from this. As always naman all our episodes are learning moments for us. Yeah,
Yes, today because we will be discussing today a very important aspect of the electric vehicle industry. So, which is
correct.
already in the law, the RA 11697 or the
Yes,
EBIDA law. Yeah.
yeah. And its relationship to and the role of renewable energy in this
Yes, yes, yes.
uh, electric vehicles, right? Yeah. So,
So for a brief introduction, Marie, before I think we get into the main topic and for the opening remarks, everyone, today we will have the discussion relating from the e-vehicle, right, Marie, up to
yeah.
the function of renewable energy. So for
Yes.
everyone's knowledge, we have RA 11697, which is otherwise known as the Electric Vehicle Industry
Yes. Yes.
Development Act, or
Yes.
the EVIDA law.
Okay.
So we hope to discuss that today. Now let's get the ball rolling.
That's right. Thank you, David. We can formally open today's forum now with the first volley to be delivered by someone who has done this countless times in the past decade. She's a known icon of the ecological movement, a prime mover of environmental education rather, and former president of Green Convergence. Currently, she remains a trustee of GC and serves as convener of Ako Ang Bukas, a movement for a quantum leap to climate neutrality by 2050. To give the opening remarks, we are privileged to have Dr. Angelina Nina Galang. Hi,
Good
Nina.
afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Isang makakalikasang araw sa ating lahat. Um, there is much anticipation about electric vehicles. We look forward to the time when many would have adopted them, and therefore our urban air will be cleaner and our ambience will be less noisy. Definitely because when we burn gasoline in our cars, the the emissions are oxides of nitrogen, sulfur, carbon particles, soot, which are all harmful to our health, not to mention that they're noisy. So electric vehicles will do much to bring peace and a little quiet to the surroundings. But while electric vehicles might be environmentally friendly, that is good for humans, that is good for our surroundings, the air that we breathe immediately around us, they may not be 100% ecological, meaning that they might not be 100, a very to a large um, percentage good for nature, because electricity that now powers our electric vehicles, when the vehicles are plugged into sockets so that the batteries will be charged, the electricity produced in the Philippines is still a lot from coal and petroleum products. So when these are burned in our power stations, they are still emitting all these uh, mainly greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide mainly. And so when carbon dioxide is increased in quantity in our atmosphere, it is a greenhouse gas, and therefore it will add to global warming and its flip side, climate change. So while I repeat, while electric vehicles might be good for our immediate surroundings, it might not be that great for the planet, for our present climate crisis. So we need, how can we have the electric vehicles powered by renewable energy? I believe we have some models that will be described in our session this afternoon, and that makes us very excited about uh, what we will hear today. Also, we would like to know, to what extent have Filipinos adopted electric vehicles? What are the constraints and what are the possibilities? And therefore, I'm very happy that the events committee has invited speakers who will give us more knowledge, more information about this topic. What is the status of e-vehicles in our country? What is the future? And what can everyone do about it? So without further ado, I'd like to thank in advance our speakers and welcome everyone who is here this afternoon. Let's all have a good session. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nina Galang. Of course, that's a very interesting and eye-opening start for our discussion. Now, Marie, let's describe the program flow for today.
But this today we're making an exception because our first speaker has to leave, no? So we're going to take questions after his presentation, but then we will have the next presentations where again there will be no questions. They will be reserved for the open forum on part two. Okay.
Okay, now for additional guidelines, ladies and gentlemen, to avoid distracting ambient noise, all participants are requested to keep your microphones on mute for the duration of the webinar, except during the open forum when participants are welcome to speak and ask questions. And for the meantime, you may use the chat box for comments, reactions, or messages. The same way for those who are watching via our Facebook live stream. And on to our first speaker, Marie.
Yes, okay, salamat David. Well, we're now ready to introduce our first speaker who will be describing the status of electric vehicles in the Philippines today. He is currently the director of the Energy Utilization Management Bureau under the Philippine Department of Energy, or DOE, as you know. A career executive service officer, or CESO rank 3, he rose from the ranks while serving in various capacities at the office of the DOE secretary, uh, from the office of the DOE secretary to the Information Technology Management Services and the Energy Policy and Planning Bureau. Recognizing the need for sustainable energy consumption and with the support of the DOE, He is aggressively implementing the Energy Efficiency and Conservation, or EEC Act, and the Electric Vehicle Industry Development Act, or EVIDA, that David was talking about earlier. So we are very happy to welcome Director Patrick T. Aquino. Good afternoon, Director
Good afternoon, Director
Aquino.
Patrick.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. We'd like to thank you for the opportunity for us to provide you with the updates on the Electric Vehicle Industry Development Act, or we fondly call it EVIDA, as well as the comprehensive roadmap for the electric vehicle industry. Allow me just to start. EVIDA was, it lapsed into law towards the tail end of the previous administration around April of 2022. So it's a relatively new law, almost just shy of 2 years old. But the target is something that we as a people and as a country can work together in achieving. So the main import of EVIDA is really to do a couple of things to get the Philippine electric vehicle industry going. The main driver for this will be the CREVI, or the roadmap itself, and its four components: electric vehicles and electric vehicle charging stations, the manufacturing component, the human resource development component, and of course research and development. The features of this particular law partake of more of mandates. A mandate for government and corporate fleets. The law indicated around 5% should be electric. I will be showing you that this has been increased to 10%, and the aspirational target is actually more than 50% towards 2040 and beyond. There are mandates for public and private facilities to put in dedicated parking slots for electric vehicle charging stations, construction and installation of charging stations and gasoline stations. And then, of course, in terms of fiscal incentives, you already heard this much more often. The exception from the vehicle volume reduction schemes, or yung parang number coding, training programs, priority registration, then the discounts also. There are some moves that the government has done. Existing incentives, for example, on electric vehicles, battery electric vehicles, on 100% zero excise tax already under the Tax Reform Act for Inclusion and Acceleration, or TRAIN Act, way back in 2017. There is also EO12 and EO62, which now also suspended import tariff for almost all types of electric vehicles. So effectively now, those are your twin benefits in terms of fiscal incentives, driving the cost of electric vehicles in the market lower. That's why you're seeing a lot more available electric vehicles here. So let me just dive into very quickly on what we envision to the CREVI. CREVI itself underwent a series of consultations. It's a multi-sectoral approach in its development. It is to be updated regularly, but the vision would be really to have a diverse range of vehicles and establish the Philippines' own domestic EV market, with the aim, of course, later on of having that strong export potential, wherein EVs and the required infrastructure are produced locally with minimal or reduced environmental impact. I already mentioned the four components earlier, but the goals for the industry would include the utilization of more EVs here domestically, the deployment of sufficient charging infrastructure for them, to position our country as a producer and possible exporter of EVs through 2040. And then this is something that we'd like to highlight, that the transition, the economic growth that we're envisioning with electric vehicles is to promote just e-mobility, meaning we protect employment in the automotive sector, we provide upskilling or capacity building, so that when we do this transition, no one will be left behind. And it will be backed by, of course, science. There's programs for research and development, particularly for battery, the digitalization, and the technological innovations, all aimed at making sure that we are competitive. But those of you who might be wondering, these are the same figures also that you will find in the Philippine Energy Plan. And these are just two scenarios that we've outlined. The reference scenario is the one, the more modest one. And as you can see across from the short term, medium term, and long term, we're a little bit aggressive, so to speak. And in each of these components, what you will notice is that there is a progressive growth. We're envisioning and targeting that our renewable energy will power the requirements of our electric vehicle charging stations. And those are what you're seeing in this particular slide. The numbers vary because for the business as usual, or that's the reference scenario, you're just looking at, the shares of electric vehicles will just reach 10% in terms of corporate fleet. When we switch over to the clean energy scenario, we're targeting to reach that almost half of land transportation vehicle registrations will become electric. And since I'll be sharing with you the materials, I will not be reading the figures and targets with you. But what I'd like to highlight is that at least in the medium and long term, the direction of government under this roadmap is to power the requirements of charging stations with 50% renewable energy. That will be from medium term 2029 to 2034. And beyond that, 100% renewable energy. And the government, of course, with your help, will be crafting all of those policies, regulations in support of this particular direction. So you were asking where we are in terms of the demand, in terms of the registration of vehicles. These are from end of 2023 figures. Out of the total 14,269,414 motor vehicles with the LTO, the bulk remains conventional or the internal combustion engines or ICE, with only 7,515 electric vehicles registered. If you were to do the breakdown, the bulk of these units will come in the form of SUVs and utility vehicles, followed by cars and sedans. Motorcycles and tricycles follows next, and then of course trucks and trailers. At the end or at the start of this month, we have the electric vehicle recognition guidelines. And we have a total of 374 battery electric vehicles on the list, 24 plug-in hybrids on the list, 42 hybrid electric vehicles, and 58 light electric vehicles. And also from our colleagues from the DOTR, we have 28 electric vehicle routes being plied by 443 electric PUVs. There's also an upcoming project for those of us who are listening from Davao City. The Davao Modernized Bus Project is included, and that will be driven by the requirements of electric buses. In terms of our charging stations, we do have the EV charging station accreditation and EV charging station registration guidelines. It included the adoption of a harmonized charging protocol that would be your CCS2 combo type chargers. As of the date of this presentation, there are 80 accredited EVCS provider, 33 operators, 23 service providers and suppliers, and a total of 616 EV charging points nationwide. 234 AC, alternating current, 33 DC, and 349 battery swapping stations. Based on the monitoring also from these guidelines, around 10,407 new jobs have been generated, and investments for the sector has reached to date 1.99 billion pesos. So you're asking how much is the charging fee? This is the latest average national EV charging fees. AC charging comes in at around 11 pesos and 12 centavos per kilowatt hour. DC charging fees at 31.48 pesos per kilowatt hour, and the battery swapping comes in at 53 pesos and 46 centavos per kilowatt hour. There's also this QR code that you can scan. There are EV charging stations that offer or bundles the parking fee with the charging fee. So it's free charging, but you pay for the parking fee. You can access all of this information at evindustry.ph. So we're also doing, of course, continuous engagements, working with our private sector colleagues. In terms of domestic manufacturing, we have 15 companies into electric vehicle assembly and manufacturing, employing around 600 people directly, with a total installed production capacity of around 200 units. Investments have reached 1 billion pesos. Battery materials and manufacturing, we have 2 nickel processing plants with an additional plant on mineral processing demonstration coming in. The capacity of our EV manufacturing is targeted with this upcoming investment to around 1,800 units. Investment pledge, this will be built in Clark, New City, around $80 million. The same is true also for a gigafactory that will be producing lithium iron phosphate battery packs for both energy storage, solar PV, as well as supporting EV charging stations. Although this particular gigafactory for battery is more aimed for the export market, particularly ASEAN, Australia, USA, and India. In terms of human resource development, our lead here, of course, is Trade and Industry and the Technical Education Skills Development Authority. Skills mapping has been underway. We're focusing on having the NC2 requirements for upskilling automotive workers to handle electric vehicles. The competency standards requirements, again, as I mentioned, for NC level 2 for battery electric vehicles have been developed, as well as for the servicing of these units. There's also the ongoing technical, vocational, educational, and training area-based demand-driven approach, wherein the specific localities and their requirements will guide how the programs will be deployed. As I did mention earlier, we're also doing research and development on application for electric vehicles on marine with DOST and Marina, in partnership, of course, with the academe. We have the safe, efficient, and sustainable solar-assisted plug-in electric boat. This particular unit is aimed really to service municipal waters, inland waterways like rivers and lakes. In terms of other research, there's a research going on for lead-acid battery enhancement. The Center for Advanced Battery Research Development has been established. There's also the commercialization, of course, of electric vehicle charging stations with the solar PV grid type. There's an e-trike conversion kit that has been prototyped, including the fabrication of electrical components, partnered with the Cagayan State University, flexible electric vans, and of course, the DOST through its units is doing R&D on EV parts and components, motor controller, vehicle control units, battery management systems, etc. So a part of this presentation will also give you what's contained in the Philippine Energy Plan. We do recognize that in terms of the power generation mix, the share of coal and oil, as flashed on the screen, is still sizable. But we are pushing for more renewable energy to meet our demand requirements. In terms of last year, we reached 16,596 megawatts with peak demand requirements being reflected here. In terms of gross generation, meaning the 24-hour cycle, RE share is at 22.13%, with fossil fuel still getting the lion's share. But what we are envisioning under the Philippine Energy Plan, the one that was published recently, is that the one you're seeing on the right, the left of your screen is the reference scenario. We are trying to bring down the shares of coal to a lesser level. And as you can see, the share of renewables, our commitment is to bring it in excess of 50%. In the clean energy scenario as well, as you can see, the target by 2040 and beyond is RE will be reaching 64.86% of our power generation mix. We might be introducing, subject to the compliance, the acceptance of the public, to nuclear technology. But the shares for natural gas, oil, and coal will remain. Of course, the pathways for the energy transition is something that we are actively working on, and that's a conversation that the government is really leaning on all our stakeholders to get this done. So in terms of the challenges for EVs, really the cost appears to be a major driver. There's anxiety as to the availability of the charging stations. That's why under the CREVI, the target is to have at least 7,000 EVs for public transportation. That's almost equivalent of 10% under the Public Utility Vehicle Modernization Program. There's also the targets of bringing in 26,500 EVs, particularly linked to local public transport route planning and the route rationalization plans. And then, of course, to have that policy on having 100% utilization of renewable energy resources to power our EV charging stations, whether on-site or through attribution. And then I did already mention earlier the Davao Public Transport Modernization Program, wherein it's looking to have at least 380 operational electric buses to service the city of Davao and its environs. I did already mention to you the schemes or the financing incentives ongoing. Suffice to say, in terms of the Public Utility Vehicle Modernization Program, the subsidy has been increased for Class 1 to 210,000 pesos, 280,000 for Class 2, 3, 4 MPUVs. There's also special packages through the Land Bank of the Philippines and the Development Bank of the Philippines to make this more accessible, particularly to our public transport sector. So what lies ahead? What are you going to expect from the government in terms of implementing the CREVI, the specific and working figures for the PUVMP, the conversations that we'll have on the EV incentive strategy or EVIS. We aim to do the consultation and possible issuance of the circulars or implementing mechanisms for the dedicated parking slots for buildings and establishments, as well as setting the mandated EV fleet shares for both government and the private sector. And then, of course, getting also the policy out on having EV charging stations in gasoline stations and in parking lots. And I think that ends my presentation. For the copy of the EVIDA, you can scan the QR code. Its IRR is also available, and the version of the CREVI that I presented is also available on the QR codes flashed on the screen. And let me end again by thanking the organizer for the opportunity to present. And we look forward to working with you to achieving the goals and our aspirations outlined in the CREVI. And as we end, let's work together. Sama-sama tayo tungo sa bagong Pilipinas. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Okay. David, I think we should start the open forum
Yes.
for this portion. So we are going to take questions now. If you have any question, please raise your
Via
hand.
the Zoom and our Facebook Live, you can ask questions to Director
Yes.
Patrick.
Or you
Okay.
can also, if you don't want
Chat.
to talk, you can put it on the chat box.
And we will read them for you.
Right. David will read it for you. He has
Okay.
better eyes.
I think Tessa is raising her hand. Tessa, go ahead.
Yes, there have been different programs that have started using electric vehicles, like for example, in Katipunan, in different areas, but they were never sustainable. What were the problems? How come they parang nag-disappear na lang yung mga electric vehicles? And that's one. And also, there is a model, I think, yung battery swapping in Antipolo using electric vehicles for their tricycles. How successful is this? parang I think that can be another model to make it cheaper also yung mga yung electric vehicles.
So let me just answer the first question. The challenges usually in the earlier adoptions, you're correct. Katipunan, there's a route that plied Ateneo, Katipunan, all the way to I'll mention the destination. It's a destination. I'm not promoting the particular established the SM North route. One of the challenges, of course, when they started off the project, the charging infrastructure, and then of course the battery. That particular project happened about a decade or so ago. So the battery, the lifespan of the battery is of concern, and then of course the charging infrastructure. So what is different right now is that we've seen technology has grown by leaps and bounds. And we do have more efficient electric vehicles. The cost also has gone considerably down. So we're hopeful that with the government support, and then of course also the government push now to have and push establishments to have EV charging stations. The ecosystem is ripe to support the entire transition. So ulitin po natin ang goal po talaga ngayon. What's going to be different in this particular rollout is that the infrastructure side on charging station and the technology on the electric vehicles itself have already improved. So the cost and the economics are now more or less aligned. But I'm not saying that the cost of EVs is already at parity with our traditional vehicles or the internal combustion engines. There's still a price gap, so to speak, but the gap is narrowing. Thank you po.
Okay, we have another question from Gigi.
Yeah,
Gigi
go
Chu.
ahead, Gigi Chua.
Um, so the whole purpose of going electrical is to save our environment, right? I heard though that to sustain going to electrical, we have to mine a lot of lithium from the environment. And if everybody went with these batteries, the electrical batteries, we will be also destroying our environment because of the mining of the lithium. And also, I heard that a lot of solar panels are now being discharged, and there's just no way of really we don't have a way of recycling the solar panels, and we are just discharging them because of the technology that's so fast. We have been discharging them, throwing them, I don't know where, e-waste. So how do we address these concerns?
Okay. But when it comes to the requirements on battery, while it's true right now that the dominant technology for energy storage is lithium, I did mention in the presentation that there are other ways to store energy. So the move right now globally is to try to reduce the burden on lithium. There are promising developments, let's say on sodium. Sodium is yung salt.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's really abundant. So the direction, of course, in the longer term is that it's not going to be entirely lithium ion. We will be using something else that's more sustainable. But as part of our roadmap, and what's maybe included in the EV incentive strategy is that we're really pushing to incentivize the bringing in of manufacturing capacity and recycling. Because from a technical perspective, if we do have the capability to recycle used, let's say, lithium-ion batteries and the rare earths that's contained in these batteries, the same technology for recycling can also be used for solar panels. That's why DOE and the rest of government with DTI and DENR, we're really working on incentivizing and coming out with that incentive mechanism to bring in that capability domestically. Because right now you are correct. It's either it's exported to a country that gets to reprocess the lithium ion, the solar panels, or it ends up really as in the dump site. So that's not something that we'd like to happen. So we're letting commerce take its course. We're listening to the private sector. What will it take to incentivize you to put up the manufacturing and the recycling facility? Because that's something that's sorely needed. And there's also another study that indicated that if we are able to recycle and capture this particular used or spent lithium and rare earths that we've used for the past 2 decades already, we don't really necessarily need to mine new. So it's really, trying to make that circular economy going. Rest assured on the part of government, nakikita po natin yan. Yan po yung talagang ini-incentivize rin natin. Ginagawan po natin ng programa. Kasi wala nga tayo nung ibang rare earths kung ma-recycle natin, may kakayahan tayong gamitin siya ulit. Magagamit siya ulit eh. That's the beauty of being able to recycle and having that framework of circular economy coming into play, which let me just assure our colleagues in the sector and our NGO partners, that's something that government is really working hard to integrate in how we do our policies and how we implement programs. Thank you po.
Thank you. That's
Thank
very
you.
encouraging. Now
That's
a
nice to
question.
hear.
Yeah,
Really.
now a question from Dr.
Yes,
Nina.
what?
I have one question. Sister Angie.
Sister
Okay,
Angie.
go ahead.
Recently kasi, I saw a video that showed an accident of two electrical vehicles hitting each other, and the explosion was so large. And they were saying that, we don't want that to happen. So I thought, wow, this is a way of advertising against electrical vehicles. Is this true?
Okay. Typically pa, yan, the government, kami po sa gobyerno, nakikita ko po yan. Ako mismo ay napanood ko po yung video at ang akin pong sariling ama na senior citizen ang nag-forward sa akin nung video. Sagutin ko lang po from a technical perspective kung bakit nagkakaroon yung mga nakikita nating sumasabog. Hindi lang po yung nasa freeway na nag-explode. May dalawa nga nagbungguan, nag-explode. Meron rin po kayong nakikita na video, I think, hindi ko papangalanan yung bansa, pero kaagaw yun sa West Philippine Sea, yun na yun, na sumasabog po bigla yung sasakyan. Pag kinignan po natin yun from a technical perspective, kadalasan po ang nangyari, yung bigla nilang sumasabog, hindi po siya talaga biglang sumasabog. Meron pong external factor na nagiging dahilan kaya sumasabog yung sasakyan ng mag-isa. Ang halimbawa nga po nito, yung sa baterya, kung nakasaksak siya, kapag po yung charging station nga po hindi up to standard, yung biglang pasok po ng kuryente dun sa sasakyan, hindi kinaya, it's either yung charging station nga po or yung sasakyan hindi kalidad, pag meron pong surge, nagkakaroon ho ng spark, pag nag-spark, pag ano po, sumasabog. Yun po yung nakikita nyo, yung nakapark, bigla lang sumasabog. Yung iba naman po, nakaparada lang talaga, walang nangyayari, bigla rin sumasabog. Ang pag inimbestigahan po yun doon sa mga nakita po ng ating DOE at mga kasamahan natin sa industriya, meron na pong naging damage doon sa baterya. Hindi lang nakikita kasi ang baterya nasa ilalim eh. So, hindi po nakita yon. So, nung nagkaroon po ng ability na magka-spark, ayun, sumabog rin. Ngayon, ang sagot naman natin doon sa nagbungguan, tinitignan pa natin yung resulta nung authenticity nun, yun ang unang kong sasagot. Pero humingi na rin po tayo sa mga kasamahan natin sa ibang bansa nung parang autopsy, quote-unquote, para dun sa sasakyan. Dahil isa nga po itong nakakabahalang pangyayari. Sa ngayon, hindi ko po kayang sagutin kung ano talaga yung nangyari dun sa nagbanggaan na dalawang sasakyan. Ang kaya ko lang sagutin yung mga examples ko pong binigay. Kapag meron na po kami ring natanggap na kasagutan dun sa mga kasamahan po natin sa bansang pinagyarihan nun, rest assured naman po, sasabihin po natin sa inyo. But to address the question, may kapasidad po ba, may kakayahan po ba, alam po ba ng ating mga first responders kapag may sumabog pong electric vehicle? Ang sagot po natin, meron po tayong mga emergency protocols na ang ginagawa nga po ng ating pamahalaan, mas pinapaalam ito sa mas marami po nating mga LGUs, mas marami po nating mga firefighters. Kasi nga po, kapag electric vehicle na po ang pinag-usapan, hindi po natin siya kayang patayin ng tubig. Meron po siyang special fire retardant po na ginagamit at yun nga po yung ating ipinaalam. Kaya nga po kung makita nyo dun sa ating roadmap, talagang malaki yung emphasis namin sa capacity building. Kasi nga po, pag nag-transition tayo, dapat alam rin po ng ating mga kababayan, ng gobyerno, ng mga pamahalaan, ng ating po mga bumbero, kung paano po maaapula itong sunog kung magkaroon po ng aksidente. So yun po yung ginagawa ng ating pamahalaan dito. Thank you po.
Thank you, Director Patrick. Two
Thank
questions
you.
from the chat.
Yes,
First,
go
from
ahead.
Dr. Galang. Very interesting question. Is it feasible to convert, or is it feasible and possible to convert conventional to e-vehicles? And another one from Mila Serrana. Do we have local production of e-vehicles? Yan, pinagsabay ko na.
Sige po, isa-isahin po natin. Feasible po bang mag-convert ng conventional na vehicle to electric? Ang sagot po ay oo. Ngayon yung regulasyon natin kung paano po ito gagawin, paano po yung insentibo kung kayo po ay gagawa, yun po yung tinatry nating streamline. Kasi ngayon po masalimuot, alam nyo naman po yung pag nagpalit tayo ng kulay ng pintura ng sasakyan, pagpalit po tayo ng may proseso po yun, pero nasa radar na po yun ng ating pamahalaan kung paano po gagawin. Nagagawa na po ito sa ibang bahagi ng mundo, so bakit naman po hindi natin kayang gawin? Ang tanong, is it economically efficient? Mura po ba ito? Yun ang hindi ko po sa atin masasabi. Siyempre kung ano po yung kakayahan nating bumili, magbayad, yun pa rin po yung magdi-determine. Ngayon, ang tanong naman po dun sa meron po tayong local production, meron po. Kaya po nating mag-manufacture ng 2 and 3 wheelers. Ang goal po nga natin is tumalun pa po. Kung kakayanin kahit mga 4 wheelers na po, yung mga nakikita yung mga auto, yun po yung long-term goal natin. At bahagi nga nito po magkaroon tayo ng sariling kakayahan na mag-produce nga po ng mga lithium ion type batteries at yung recycling nito. Sinasagot ko na rin po yung ating katanungan doon sa battery disposal. Yung battery disposal po ngayon, hindi siya nare-recycle pa, iniipon po siya. Ngayon po, pag parami na ipon po yung ating mga authorized recyclers, yung mga nagko-collect po ng ating mga waste, naiipon lang po siya, naiimbak siya. Kaya nga po ang ating goal, tulad po nung nabanggit ko kanina, nagkipagtulungan tayo buong gobyerno na madala yung kakayahan ng kapabilidad na magkaroon po ng planta ditong kayang mag-manufacture ng lithium battery, mga ganun pong type ng battery. Kasi yung kakayahan na po nung kayang mag-produce, kaya na rin pong mag-recycle. Ang ikinabuti po nito, dahil nga po pag pumasok yung kakayahan na ito dito sa ating bansa, pati po yung pag-recycle, hindi lang po nung ating mga baterya, pati po yung mga solar panels, madadamay. Kaya ang approach po ng ating pamahalaan, commercial po yung nature. Kausap po natin ang pribadong sektor, ano pong incentives ang kailangan naming ibigay sa inyo para mamuhunan po kayo. Hindi po si gobyerno yung dapat pumasok sa ganitong larangan, pribadong sektor. Alam nyo naman po ang gobyerno, meron pong nagsabi sa akin na dati kong boss, ang government is a very poor businessman. So let's leave the business to businessmen, but make sure that it's within the purposes by which we strive, and it, of course, for the common and public good po siya. Thank you po.
I think we have another question from Jessie Las Marias. Then after that, we'll go to our advanced photo op before we let Director
So that
Patrick
we will
para
have
kasama siya sa photo.
kasama siya sa photo op.
Go ahead, Sir Jessie Las Marias.
Yeah, my question is, parang ang impression, the only way we can recharge EVs is through the socket, na ang power ay supplied ng the electric company, which usually use fossil fuel. Di ba pwedeng mag-create ng ang charging ay galing sa solar or galing sa wind, ganon, o galing sa hydroelectric sources, para naman hindi na kinakailangan manira pa ng environment para nang sa ganon ay magkaroon lang ng charging station. Can we do that?
Sir, marami pong salamat sa katanungan niyo po. Kung nabalikan niyo po yung ating presentation sa roadmap po, nakalagay na nga na ang medium term po, ang i-impose po nating requirement pagdating sa mga charging station, 50% ng kuryente niya dapat galing na po ng renewable energy. Yun po yung nakalatag dun sa programa natin. So yung specific mechanism po paano to gagawin, nagbabalangkas nga po kami para nga rin ang goal natin, kung babalikan po natin yung naging presentation ko, may portion pa po dun sa electric charging fee na may VAT. Yun po yung kaya namin gusto na 100% na ang kuryente galing sa renewable energy, kasi po ang aming ilalabas pong polisiya, regulasyon, na kapag ka ang kuryente po ng isang charging station ay galing sa renewable energy, wala pong VAT. So yung presyo pong nakikita nyo na average national charging fees, whether AC, DC, or battery swapping, bababa pa po ito. Kasi nga po pag naibalangkas at na-implement po namin yung programa na yung kuryente po na ginagamit sa ating charging stations, whether on-site, ibig pong sabihin dun sa charging, malapit dun sa charging station, or binibili niya exclusively from a renewable energy supplier, VAT-free po ito. Yun po yung long-term goal, sir.
Yeah.
Na lahat po nung charging station natin, pagdating po ng 2040 and beyond, masasabi po natin na 100% powered po siya ng renewable energy. Yun po ang inilagay nating sa programa. Yun po ang pinagsisikapan ng buong gobyerno, at sana po ikatuwang kayo na marating po natin.
Well, thank you for the answer. But then I have a follow-up question. Kasi right now, the concern really is how to reduce the incidence of using our natural resources for power, power source, no? Pero at the moment, napaka igting yung research on the use of hydrogen fuel, no? And we all know that hydrogen fuel comes from water, and sinasabi nga nila unlimited daw yung supply. Is this really true, or is there a possibility that if we convert to hydrogen fuel in the future, baka maubos naman ng tubig?
Okay po. Dun po sa hydrogen, nakikita na rin po yan ng ating pamahalaan. Kaya nga po nung simula po nitong taon, naglabas po kami nung tinatawag po nating hydrogen energy guidelines. Pinagputuunan na po natin ng pansin kasi nakikita rin po ng ating pamahalaan yung development sa ibang bansa na ang hydrogen nga po, it's an abundant resource. May potential po ito, depende kung ano pong estado nito, lalong-lalo na kung pwede nga siyang powder, na madali po siyang matransport, pwede po siyang gamitin para mag-store ng enerhiya, na pwede later nating i-convert sa electricity, sa kuryente. So ang ginagawa po ng ating pamahalaan, meron po tayong mga in-enter pong mga technical assistance at mga possible pilot demonstration kung saan yun na nga ipapakita na kung papaano yung renewable energy, kung may sobra, ma-store ito ng hydrogen para kung kailangan gamitin, magagamit natin. Pero sa kasalukuyan po, sasagutin ko yung katanungan, yung medyo mahal pa po yung ating mga hydrogen powered vehicles at saka po yung fuel cell technology. So, kaya po in the meantime, ang atin pong pinupush nga po itong electric. Pero pagka bumaba na po yung cost nito at nasa level na po kagaya ng ating mga EV sa kasalukuyan, definitely po kasama siya sa ating transition. Pero bago ko po bitawan yung topic, ipapaalala ko lang po dahil ang nagiging conversation natin, pag-uusap natin tinitignan palagi natin na patuloy na darami yung mga sasakyan sa lansangan. Uulitin ko po sa ilalim po ng ating Philippine Development Plan, ambisyon natin 2040 at nung atin pong National Transport Policy. Ang goal po ng ating pamahalaan bilang isang lipunan mag-shift po tayo sa mga mass transit active mobility options. Yun po yung isang bahagi na hindi po ako taga-transportation department pero nais ko pong i-impart sa inyo na push rin po ng DOE. So ang layon nga po ng gobyerno, nagpo-push tayo ng mag-shift sa electric vehicles sa mga sustainable na sasakyan, pero inaayos rin po natin yung ating mga lansangan, ma-pedestrianize po yung kaya nating i-pedestrianize, at dumami nga po yung mass transportation. Ang solusyon po kasi natin para hindi dumami ang sasakyan sa lansangan, padaliin po natin ang paggalaw ng tao, at ang pinakamainam nga po at energy efficient na paraan nito gumamit po tayo ng mass transportation at i-push po natin yung active mobility. Thank you po.
Ayan, maraming salamat, Director Aquino. I think we had enough time for the question and answer, or
I think
depende
that
kay Director Patrick if he would still take, we have still 2 questions.
the-
Director Patrick, are you still,
I will
or we
answer
have
the
to go?
2 questions. Pwede ko naman pong sagutin. po ay hindi
Last
po
two,
siya
last two.
kino-consider na renewable energy. Para lang po maliwanag, hindi po siya pasok doon kasi po ang renewable energy ay yung hindi nauubos. Ang nuclear
Yes.
energy po ang fuel source nito, pag naubos nagiging na siyang waste.
Yes.
Meron po ba tayong wave? Meron po tayong mga binigyan ng kontrata, renewable energy service contracts for wave. Ang pinakamadami po nating nabigyan sa kasalukuyan ay yung tinatawag po nating offshore wind. Bago po ako matapos, in relation to that, para nga po dumami ang mamumuhunan dito, pinayagan na po ng ating pamahalaan ang 100% foreign ownership ng renewable energy service contracts. Yung kontrata po sa pag-exploit, develop, and utilize ng ating renewable energy. Isa po ito sa mga major reforms na ginawa ng kasalukuyang administrasyon nung Disyembre po nung 2022. So first 6 months po ng administration. So thank you po.
Thank you, Director Patrick. Few discussion and presentation from the government agency that is very clear and very direct to the point. So maraming
And very
salamat.
encouraging. You
Yeah,
know,
very
very encouraging. Ay, nabuhayan ako ng loob. Director Aquino, thank you very much.
Walang pasway-sway, talagang direct to the point, pati yung mga targets and everything. So
Thank you.